free on that asphalt lane. 4 wide at town today, they ain't holding no change.
Gordon's right back country, and we get biggie. Bars and America's on bunch, paper is 19.
4 cars side by side in a wild friend ride, with the roar of the engines leaving all doubts behind. As the wheels spin on, chasing dreams we can't hide. That's a car life where legends never die.
Welcome back, everybody, to the 4 Wide podcast. We are back again for another recording on Tuesday. Publication will be on Wednesday as usual. And if you're on the YouTube format, you obviously can see that we are shrink down once again this week. We cannot get 4 people on this podcast to save our life at the moment. But we do have Kent with us here today. How's it going, buddy?
Man, it's going good. Going good.
Good. And seeing that you were out and about this weekend, got to go to some football games, I believe. So I'm sure you had a fun
That's
time.
right. Man, we took Wesley to his second football game of the season, his third Georgia football game. And I'll tell you, for a 2-year-old, I don't know if the bigger deal for him was seeing the football game, and he says "Go Dogs" the whole time, so we're racing them right, or riding a bus. He's like, I sing about it all day long because the wheels go round and round, And we put him on one, and he's like, "Bus," and it was the funniest thing. It's funny the things that you appreciate as a parent of a 2-year-old that you normally wouldn't appreciate. And so, anyways, but we had a great time. Watched the dogs, out some wildcats, and hopefully we'll do it again to some other cats this weekend.
That's a good recovery after their tough loss last week.
I'm not ready to talk about that yet. Hey, but tell us this. I mean, you were at the race this past weekend, so man, that had to have been I've never been, so I've been to. In fact, the first race I ever went to, first Cup race, was the fall race there at Charlotte back in 2005.
Mm-hmm.
But I've never been to a Roval race, and have you been to all the Roval races or most of them?
I have been to like 3 or 4. I've not been to a majority of them. Blake's been to more than I have. I think the only one that he's missed was maybe like the second year of it or something like that. He's been to most of them. And that's why he's such a ride and die with the Roval, where I'm more of like a hybrid, where I'm like, it's cool, but, fall oval race would also be cool.
Yeah.
It's just mainly because my first ever race was the fall race as well, when Kevin Harvick won in 2014. I went to the truck race, and I went to the Cup race. I didn't go to the Xfinity race because, man, just driving back and forth to Charlotte 3 days in a row, not very fun. I've only been to 19 races this year, so.
Yeah, that's pretty pathetic. I'm not gonna lie. You're gonna have to step up your game. It beats my 2. This will be the first year in a while I hadn't gone to a Cup race, which it feels a little funny. I was supposed to go to one, but I had an opportunity to have a little bit more family time instead, and so I was able to kind of sell my tickets to that Atlanta race. I don't regret it, but I do look at the finish and go, dang, that would have been cool to have been there in person. But I don't know. It's just well, there goes Wesley Crown again. Anyways, but no, I'm hoping I'm able to make the spring Atlanta race next year. Kind of get things kicked back off quickly. But I really want to get to that North Wilkesboro points race. That's going to be cool.
Yeah,
but
I'm expecting you to be there.
I really want to be there.
I'm expecting you to be there.
I'm waiting to see if maybe NASCAR Rewards will offer that as a opportunity to redeem. I'm skeptical, but I'm going to try with that first.
I'm pretty sure they just put their points up for next year for all the races that they are offering. So,
well, did they, dude?
Yeah.
Look, right here live while we're talking, I'm going to be looking at that.
All right, sounds good. Well, I mean, I'll go ahead and just introduce the truck race, kind of my perspective of it. Lap 1, I mean, talk about a cluster.
A cluster what?
A frick, man. It's a cluster frick. Yeah, it's a chaotic start. You don't even make it through the first turn, and your 2 top contenders for the race of Corey Heim and Lane Riggs are in the wall, thanks to Grant Enfinger. And before I even start talking about the overall arc of the race, just getting into that incident, it just seemed like Enfinger kind of misjudged the corner, went in a little bit too hard, which is easy to do on those road course races, especially given that none of the truck drivers that were in the field, for majority of them, they were never on the Roval. I think Corey LaJoie, Josh Bilicki, Parker Kligerman, obviously. A lot of these drivers had no experience going into this race, and it showed through the first turn. They didn't even make it through the first turn without wrecking a Corey Heim and Lane Riggs, which was chaotic. But one thing I really respect about that is Enfinger actually came out after the race and said on front stretch, one of the most reputable, anybody, they do interviews outside of your standard media, so they do their own independent broadcasting kind of deal thing where they get drivers interviews after the race and whatnot. And he said, "Man, I just screwed up." He's like, "There's no excuses." He's like, "I just did something bad, and that's what happens." And as a fan, I really respect that because there's not many people out there that there's some people that be like, "Yeah, I made a mistake," but I'm like, "Here's my excuse because blah blah blah." Where Enfinger was just like, "No, I messed up. I'll tell you exactly how I messed up, describe it pretty much in detail, and really no excuses, not trying to, fashion it up," which I really respect as a fan. Personally, I don't know about Kent here, what his perspective on something like that is, but
You got to respect someone like that. I mean, he's a veteran of the series, too, mildly successful veteran, someone who is always in the conversation for being in contention to win a lot of these races. So for him to own up to that, I think a lot of people would be willing to show him grace because I don't think he's typically a figure of controversy, but you've got to own it when it happens. I mean, that's one thing. Is kept making mistakes, and he's like, well, he's owning up to it. And it's like at some point, all right, someone's just gonna have to punch him or something. I don't know, but as long as it's not a scenario like that where you're just constantly making mistakes and constantly asking for forgiveness, and it's like, well, obviously you're not really, you don't care that you're messing up. You're asking for forgiveness, and it doesn't matter because you're going to turn around and mess other folks up the next week. I don't think that's going to be what he does. Hey, to not try to fault anyone else, especially if there's a window to fault someone else, and for you to just own it up. I think that says a lot about how confident he is in himself as a driver too, to be able to say that and not worry about what will the media take it and run with it? Will a driver use it against me or whatever the case may be?
yeah, they're like their own independent kind of team compared to, a Thor Sport or somebody that's really prestigious. But he's out there running a pretty solid year. I mean, I would say he would even admit this year's not been his best, especially compared to last year. Last year in the playoffs, he rang off 2 wins, one coming up, one of the racetracks coming up being Talladega, that he got one of those wins at. That kind of clinched him into the playoffs. But it was rough to see, but I will say firsthand watching Corey Heim overcome the ending or the overcome that incident and coming from the back was super impressive to see the speed that truck had. And of course, a lot of the damage was more mildly cosmetic rather than like Lane Riggs. Lane Riggs was absolutely screwed up after the race. His back suspension was screwed up. You could see like the car literally bouncing on the right side of the rear. You could see sparks coming out of the first sparking. And then, of course, when he gets to hairpin, he can't turn nearly as hard as everybody else. So, based where Lane finished coming into that last restart, which we'll get to everything with that was impressive in itself for him to get back that far up because that thing was absolutely screwed up. But watching Heim overcome, really watching the way he kind of shoots the corners and stuff, it really shows his proudness as a road course racer because I know at one point in the season, I think it was Lime Rock, I admittedly was like, yeah, I know Heim's obviously the best truck going into whatever race it is, but I don't know about his road racing. And then, of course, he goes to Lime Rock and he spanks the field, right? Well, this is kind of the opposite, but also the same because you had to come up through the field in a damaged race truck. I mean, there's bare bond on the driver's side. It's dented in where he could have possibly had a tire rub. Thankfully, it wasn't too farly dented in because he just got into that little bit of the barrier into turn 1. So he didn't have much damage on that side of the car, where mainly most of it came from Lane Riggs hitting him on the side where he got turned around. So it was really cool to watch him navigate, make smart decisions throughout the race, knowing that he has a fast race truck, and he ultimately was able to win the race. But of course, there was another young driver up front for mainly most of the race, and that was Brent Cruz. Brent Cruz looked really impressive in that truck. Obviously, they raced for the same race team, but you've not heard Brent Cruz's name that much leading, mainly because when you're stuck someone like Corey Heim, it's kind of hard to really impress when you got someone that literally is making history, which we'll talk about once we get to the finish. But he looked very articulate and was, gapping the field. He looked like a dominant truck, especially compared to everybody else. Like, it was basically fourth back because, 2, 3, or 1, 2, and 3 basically wrecked in the first corner. So it really just shows the youth movement in NASCAR. I know a lot of people were worried about, star power, name power, but when you got people like Connor Zilich, you got Corey Heim, you got Jesse Love, who's still fairly young as well, and you also got Brent Cruz, who's only 17 years old and very impressive, 17 to 18 years old, and showing racecraft like that at a road course race that's very technical. You got to feel pretty good about NASCAR. Coming into, we're looking at the twilight years of Denny Hamlin, probably next 3 years, probably going to retire. And then eventually Logano, 5 to 6 years, you would imagine he's getting to the end of his road. And other drivers that are starting to slowly age up. I remember when Logano came in, and I didn't necessarily remember when Hamlin came in because I wasn't following as closely. But it's crazy to think about these guys who we thought, as young, are now to the point where they're about ready to hang the hat up.
Yeah, I remember Casey Kane's rookie season vividly. And to think of how long he's been out of the sport, obviously, he probably would have been around a while longer had he not had some of his health problems. It is wild to consider guys that I remember watching them as rookies. Denny Hamlin, his rookie season, 2000, driving that 11 FedEx car, and that says something about Denny Hamlin too, for him to go this long into his career driving the same car there at Joe Gibbs. That's pretty special. That doesn't happen a whole lot. You've got some guys who have an opportunity to kind of make that happen, and he said he would like to drive for his team before he retires. With its current charter situation, I don't know how realistic of a goal that may be if he plans to retire in the next 2 or 3 years. But still something that's really cool. So, but yeah, like Joey Logano, I remember when he was the young one that there was a time where we were thinking Joey was a bust. Can you believe it? There was a time when Joey came along in 2009, and yeah, he won a rain short in New Hampshire, and it was like, man, he's kind of getting out of his job at Gibbs and gonna have to go and try to find some success at Penske, and it's just kind of like, oh, about this. And boy, was that what he needed to kind of really kickstart his career. It's rare you see a guy leave one team because he kind of was struggling to win, especially at a powerhouse like Gibbs, and go somewhere else and thrive. But he was an exception to that rule. And then, like you said, he's a 3-time champion, still in a hunt for a 4th championship this season. Don't know how I feel about that, but anyways, and then, but yeah, he's probably to a point in his career where he's saying, yeah, I'm probably starting to, but he's still young. I think he's got a lot left in him, but yeah, there are a lot of guys that are definitely getting ready to be passing the torch to the next generation of Cup stars, like, Zilich and Heim and others.
For sure. I mean, it's been very nice to see, the pathway that these guys have. It's available, but it's also blocked at this point. So for most of those organizations, so it's helped them kind of improve their racecraft overall. The more time that they get in the seat, the more educated they get in making driver decisions. So you don't have instances kind of like how we've talked about Hocevar, kind of have like the Hocevar syndrome. He got moved up fairly quick. Arguably, you could say too quick, but I mean, obviously the talent's there. It's just seems some like the decision making's not there at times, and that kind of mirrors the Cup race. I'll talk about that in a little bit as well, but it's still like the talent's undeniable. It's just some of the decision making. You're like, dang, you're like, I could see someone in ARCA making a better decision, and it's just ultimately more seat time, more reps. But it was really cool to see Brent Cruz look really impressive. Obviously, this race was historical. One of the main reasons that I went to this race is because I knew in my head there is very much a chance that if I go to this race, I'm going to see Corey Heim pass Greg Biffle's record for the most wins in Craftsman Truck Series history. Now, did I think it was going to be this nice of a articulate race where there's a lot of drama and different things going on? No, mainly because it's not a cutoff race for these truck drivers. With this win, Corey Heim obviously passes Greg Biffle, which we'll throw it to the history expert here in a second because I know they want to talk about that at least. But one thing that this also does is that pretty much gives Corey Heim a free ride to the end of the season. So he just has to prepare for Phoenix. And as we've seen in the past, you see someone like Larson win Las Vegas and you see someone like Logano win Las Vegas. They can kind of forgo the next few races or really concentrate on getting that right set up for a track like Phoenix. Kent, man, what do you want to talk about here with Corey Heim? You want to talk about the elegance of this win, or are you just going to talk about more of the history element with it?
So I was wanting to see, let's see here. So Greg Biffle set that record in 1999. This was, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not wrong. This was before he was a full-time Cup Series driver. So this wasn't like a deal where, you've got a Cup star who's going back to race in a lower series and kick rear end and take names, right? Like this is kind of before that. But this wasn't a time when the truck series was much more maybe primitive, for a lack of a better word. It was much more like you had a whole lot more short tracks on the schedule, not near as many road course races on the schedule. And it was just you had your guys who were lifers in the truck series. And the truck series was almost seen as, I don't know, like I feel like to get the truck series started there in the 90s when they launched that series, they had to get some names in it that would make people feel like they could watch it and really enjoy it. And so they pulled some of the guys who maybe were later in their career, weren't going anywhere in Cups. So they said, hey, come be a winner in this series or whatever the case may have been. This was about the time I think it really started to turn more into a developmental series for the next tiers of NASCAR. So Greg Biffle is getting in there. Roush knows he's investing in this guy who he believes is going to come along and be his next star. And yeah, Greg was. I think we'd all agree that Greg could have probably had a little bit more success had he raced anywhere. Greg's one of those guys that probably should have won a championship, never was afforded the opportunity to really. I mean, he had a couple of chances too, and then just had some things. At the end of the day, NASCAR, you need both skill and luck, and he had skill, and there were some times that he did not have the luck. But anyways, but no, I mean, you have two guys that are very much similar, but I think it shows us a couple of things. The first thing it shows you is that just because you break this record and have this kind of success in the truck series doesn't mean that you're going to go on and set those same kinds of records in the Cup series, because the Cup series is its whole, it's its own animal, right? So Corey Heim is still going to have to show up to the Cup series and figure out how to race now. He has been able to prove that he can get a top 10 at the Cup level. He's already done that. He did that at or was it even a top 5? I feel like he finished 6th.
He finished 6th, yeah.
At Bristol. So Heim knows how to finish in the top 10. Bristol's not an easy race to do that either. Let's just go ahead and admit that. It's not an easy race.
Especially that Bristol race with all the tire wear.
Exactly. I mean, that's really where you tend to see veterans shine, right? The guys who know how to manage their tires, who know how to make good lap time on bad tires. And for Heim to finish sixth in that race, I think says a lot about his potential. And so I don't think you can look at these stats and just objectively say the guy's going to kick rear end and take names at the Cup level. But it's not a bad start. If you're going to have a guy come through and kick butt and take names at the Cup level, this is the kind of stuff you'd expect him to do in the lower tiers in the lower tier series on his way in. And he has absolutely just taken the belt to the field this season. Regardless of what goes down in Phoenix in a few weeks, he has dominated this season in just a ridiculous way. Well, yeah, I mean, the takeaways that you can take from what Greg Biffle did in 1999 is, the first one is, yes, it takes talent, and I think it would be safe to assume Heim is going to get to the Cup level and have success, but it's going to be very contingent upon who he's partnered with, what teams he drives for, and then what happens to those teams. Like, if he's driving a full-time 2311 car and 2311 doesn't have a charter, that could mess him up. If he's driving, if Joe Gibbs were to find a way to, which Joe Gibbs ain't looking to get rid of any drivers, maybe Legacy, if they were to add it, whatever the case may be, you'd be looking at, okay, is this going to be a situation that he's going to be put in where he can go out and win immediately? Toyota ain't going to let him get away, but could it be to his detriment if someone like, Rick Hendrick came along and offered him a car, or if someone like, even if RCR were to get their junk together? So, who's switching to Chevy next season? There's one that's switching to Chevy, right?
It's Cole Custer's team, right? It's
Oh, that's right. The Haas factory. So that's just a one-car operation. So but you never know if they try to build back up something there at Haas factory, which I think they might try to pour more into that team and have a little bit of success with one car before they add another to the fleet. But anyway, so there's a lot that Heim has to take into consideration. The next decisions he makes for his career will say a lot about where he goes and what happens. Because a lot, unfortunately, is outside of your control. But as far as the talent, he's got it. And I'm excited to see what this Georgia boy can do once he gets to the Cup Series full time, because I think he's going to put on a heck of a show.
Well, one thing, if you really sit down and think about it, right, Greg Biffle, I believe he made his truck season debut in 98, and 99 is the year that he got the 9 wins. With those 9 wins came 529 laps led. We've talked about how many laps that Corey Heim's led this year. Kent, can you have any idea how many laps Corey Heim has led now coming out of the Roval race compared to Greg Biffle's 529?
I want to say at least 3 times that.
It is 1,444 laps led this year for Corey Heim.
So I was thinking somewhere in the ballpark of 1,500, and so I wouldn't have been far off. So
I mean, by the end of the year, yeah.
It's only going to go up. It's only go when you consider some of the, they still got Martinsville and what's that, 250 lap race, 200 lap race. But either way, that's several hundred laps of opportunities to lead. Even Phoenix, if he dominates the way that we think we probably could or will, but that's a lot more laps too. So that's wild. That is wild.
You want to hear the crazy thing?
Go for it.
Everybody's been talking about how, Corey Heim might not win the playoffs just based upon how everything works with Phoenix. Greg Biffle also did not win the championship in 1999.
Did he really?
He lost by 8 points to Jack Sprug. And he only won 3 races that year. So, yeah, we are...
There he is.
Yeah, the man, the myth, the legend, the Aussie, has returned to us in his new setup. Very articulate.
It's good to be back on. Been a little while.
Yeah. We I always forgot what you look like.
I know. I had to try to match Kent's record of misses. So
Oof.
No, it's okay. You're not gonna get there. You're not gonna get there. I will win that record.
Well, we were just talking about how obviously we kind of got to how Heim beat Greg Biffle's record, which you predicted at the beginning of the season. You know, you can toot the horn if you want to, or just do whatever you want to.
say as I wake up in the morning, I piss excellence. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean, holy cow! I was a little nervous towards like the third 3/4 mark of the season. I was like, man, he's choking some of these, or he's been put in good positions, but man, he just can't seem to lock it in. But man, he's locked it in the last couple of weeks. I mean, he's got so many stickers on his truck. He's got to start putting them on the roof now, from winning all these races. So yeah, he is a generational talent in the truck series, and he can win at any track. Plate. I mean, he won the Daytona race, and he's won 1.5 miles. He's won short tracks. He's won road courses. What can't he win on? So it literally takes a mechanical failure or a mess up on pit road to get him out of a race. So yeah,
or being wrecked,
get caught up in crap. But man, I had a feeling coming into the season. He dominated last year. What was his total? Like 7 wins last year, I think was his total, something along that line. And I just had a feeling, I think this year, especially, there was considerably less competition in the truck series. And so I felt as if he was primed this year to have a good run. Sure enough, I was right. So toot toot.
but yeah, it's just crazy to think about the pure dominance that he's put together. But without that last caution, right, he might have not got the chance to have that, because Brent Cruz, I mentioned earlier when you weren't on, he was very impressive, a very young talent. NASCAR's looking really good with the youth movement that they got going on at the current moment. But that caution came out, and there's been people that have said that, well, it was rigged because it was Tony Bringer's 5 truck was the one that stalled and made the caution come out, right? Well, some people don't understand that Brent Cruz drives for the exact same team that Corey Heim drives for, who also is teammates with Tony Bringer. So it's like, really, people? But the decision maker for Brent Cruz is apparently he was out of gas. He was stumbling, so he had to come down pit road and get gas, and a lot of the field followed him. People like Connor Zilic, who most people had circled, as a name that was going to compete with Heim, came and got tires where Corey Heim and a few others stayed out, and one of those being Lane Riggs. And at that moment, Lane Riggs decided that he didn't really decide. His truck just decided to give up on him, and it broke. I think the clutch broke at that point, and it kind of slowed the restart down, that last restart. So the cars on newer tires had a harder time getting past, and it gave the gap of what Corey Heim needed to win that race. So I hate that Blake's not here, because I know he wants to mention Riggs, because the clutch breaking was terrible, because at that point, if he was able to hold on, he might have got a top 10. I think 5th at that point, talking about hanging in there literally. Of course, clutch gave out, and that's that.
Was kind of in and out of watching it, and I was really confused towards the end because I saw that Zilic was running pretty well up front, and then I see in the race results that he kind of got shuffled back, and I kind of was...
Yeah, that was the new tires, and then Riggs was not able to fire off real well due to the clutch issue, and then there's about 5 or 6 trucks that stayed out with Corey Heim. They didn't blockade necessarily, but they were kind of in the way, so the newer tires could not overcome it. It was really cool to be there for history. I can say, if I ever have kids that are into NASCAR, I'm like, hey, I was at, Corey Heim's record-breaking, and who knows, maybe that record won't stand that long. But also the crazy thing, a part of that is Greg Biffle had the record in '99, so it's been around for a while. So
And Heim can add to that
and you've
record.
had, yeah, very very easily. He could very easily win Martinsville, and I think he could win. I mean, honestly, he could win Phoenix. Talladega would be the one I'd be like, I'm not entirely sure on, because that's such a toss-up race for the most part. But we will see what happens. We'll move on to the Xfinity race, talking about one phenomenal talent to another. I mean, Connor Zilic just dog whipped the field in this race. There was no other way that you could really describe it. Any restart, just gone with the wind. Had a good jump. I mean, really, the only person I remember even getting remotely close to him on a restart was Justin Allgaier, and that was on the first restart. And eventually, Zilic just cleared him. That was it. So I don't think we have to sit here and talk about how impressive Connor Zilic has been this year. We all mentioned it multiple times this year, how impressive, and obviously he's at 10 wins now as well as Corey Heim. So they both won that many races this
What's
year.
the Xfinity record?
I think it's 14. So
Probably won't get that then.
It may be 13. Obviously, it's held by Kyle Busch. And I mentioned it last week. People don't give enough appreciation. Connor Zilic is literally 18, going on 19. And Kyle Busch was in his prime at this point, top equipment, everything, and was putting these performances in. For Zilic to put a season in that young is impressive. So, did you get
It's
the
13.
record there? I figured, yeah, that's what I thought. So, he would have to win out to win it, and he would have to win the next 3 of the 4 to tie it. And Talladega's going to be a hard one for him. I mean, he literally got injured in Talladega.
That's right.
So, that's a toughie. And you imagine the RCR cars are going to be the ones to watch out for. Mainly Jesse Love, probably because, Austin Hill's now eliminated, which we'll get to here in a little bit.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm sure 90% of the fan base is really depressed about that.
I know Kent's really sad.
Yeah, very much so. So much he had to turn the camera off because he's crying just thinking about it. But yeah, the real drama that come from this race, right, is the playoff story. On that last little bit of a restart, you had Taylor Gray, I think Sammy Smith, and Quapple. Those were the 3 that were really fighting for the last 2 spots, but the last 3 positions in the points. And Sammy Smith, with 4 or 3 laps to go, decided, hey, I'm going to have to come in because need to get some new tires to be able to move up more positions to try to beat Gray. Well, when they're on pit road changing these tires, the caution comes out and changes the whole story, because now Gray is on older tires compared to Smith, who's on newer tires. And I believe Quapple started a couple, or either came in or he got tires. So they were on newer tires, and Quapple, right off that last restart, gained so many positions that pretty much bookended him into it. But it came down, of course, to a caution at the end of the race where they have to freeze the field. And there was a lot of drama. It almost felt like NASCAR was taking their time on purpose to add a little extra drama, because it was calculating that Taylor Gray passed Jesse Love, but he literally passed Jesse Love under caution, and they had video of it. So they were giving him an extra point for the tie. So it felt like they were kind of making a story that wasn't really there necessarily. But anyways, Sammy Smith is your guy that's moving on with Quapple, which gets all 4 JRM cars into the final 8. You have Jesse Love, the one RCR car that survived. You got both Stewart Haas cars making it. Well, former Stewart Haas, now Haas Factory. That's incredible for them. And you have people like Nick Sanchez being eliminated, Austin Hill eliminated. Those 2 bigger names out of those bunch. I have everything written down, but I'm just started talking.
Harrison Burton.
Yeah, he had that unfortunate breaking of the car midway through the race, which pretty much just eliminated him. And of course, Gray, right?
Mhm.
Gray is the guy that to me, and I'll kind of throw it to whoever it is. I don't think Kent's back yet, obviously, but it's crazy that Sammy Smith and Taylor Gray are the two people that were fighting for that last playoff spot, given what happened at Martinsville earlier in the year when Sammy Smith wrecked Taylor Gray for the win. And he didn't win the race. Obviously, Austin Hill won that race, which Austin Hill's points got negated. But you imagine if Taylor Gray won that race, he was going to be in right now because that's a lot of points. That's 10 plus the extra point.
Obviously, Hill was put in a difficult situation due to his bonehead decision on the track at Indy. There's no other really way to frame that. That was, we all agreed and talked about how egregious that was. So really, I don't feel a ton of sympathy for him getting knocked out, and he also had the incident in Watkins Glen as well, where he about killed. Who was it? Was it McDowell? He about killed.
Yeah, he didn't lift. That was for dang sure.
So lots of bonehead decisions. But then you have a guy like Taylor Gray, who was, him and Sammy Smith were obviously, they were in primo position to fight for that win at Martinsville earlier in the spring, and the drama that ensued after that. And I just feel for Taylor Gray, man. He's had a tough year. I mean, good year. He's been consistent. He's been in the top 10s, top 5s, but that win has eluded him this year. You just hate it for him, but props to him for making it this far without getting a win this season, even though he should have. And then Nick Sanchez, I mean, heck of a first year in Xfinity for Nick. He's a guy that I was a little iffy on coming out of the Truck Series. I think he showed some promise, but ultimately I wasn't sold on him. But I was impressed to see him run well this year in Xfinity, because Xfinity and Truck is a whole new ball game. They're different ball games, and to see him come in and make it this far into the playoffs, I was really, really impressed by him. And I think he's got a bright future. I'm not saying he's going to be the next Jimmy Johnson, but I think he's got the potential to have a respectable career in NASCAR. And then Harrison, the guy literally got kicked out of Cup last year, lost his ride, and then was put into not the best equipment, for being honest, in the Xfinity Series. It was the same ride that Haley Deegan was in, if I'm not mistaken, right, in Xfinity. So, not top tier equipment. We saw Haley's struggles in that equipment, but then seeing Harrison take this equipment and be contending for top 10s, top 5s, a couple races we thought he might win. He was running well. He's ran well at most of the plate tracks this year. He's been contention for wins there. And a lot of it has just been necessarily, some of it's been his driving, but some of it's also been strategy calls that are putting him in these positions where he's fighting for those top 5s and above. So, I hate to see these guys get knocked out, but when you got the JRM machine that has got all their drivers in it pretty much, and you have Jesse Love, who's had a phenomenal year and has a solid chance coming up here at Dega to lock himself into the Final Four. I think, and then you have Mayer, who's been consistent this year as well. And is Creed still in? Yep. And you have Creed.
Yeah, both Haas factory cars made it in their own independent year.
That's top tier competition. And so, I think we all had a feeling coming into the playoffs, we knew who the final 8 was going to be. It was going to be at least 3 of the 4 junior motorsports cars. It's probably going to be Sam Mayer, and second place Sheldon Creed, is always a contender. So, yeah, I'm not super surprised. I hate it for guys like Taylor Gray, especially. Guy that I like, Taylor Gray, and he's that guy. And whenever I watch the Xfinity Series, that I hope gets the win. Like I hope that he gets. I'm pulling for him. So, I definitely wouldn't pull him for the last guy, the 54, but this guy, Taylor Gray, I really like him, and I really want to see him do well. But yeah, I'm excited to see how things go in the round of 8 for the Xfinity Series, and man, it's going to be an interesting 3 races for them.
See, it's like, for me, your Gray is like my Creed. Like, I want to see Sheldon
I do
Creed
too.
win so bad. It's so sad. It's just like, I don't even pull for him week in to week out. Like, kind of do. I kind of watch the Xfinity Series, just like that chill race. I really don't have a dog in the fight. I can just kind of sit back and enjoy the race. But I see Sheldon Creed moving up, towards the end of the race, and it looks like he's gonna, compete for the win. I'm like, dang it, Creed. I'm like, you're right there. If you had another half of a lap, you would have had that first win. But yeah, it's I think it's going to be a very interesting series of events.
I mean, you still can't help but look at, just the situation that Hill put himself in, right? Austin Hill, has not had a bad season at all, but has made some really poor decisions at the courses. That's led himself to being eliminated before the round of 8. I don't think any of us preseason expected him to be eliminated this early. I think we all expected him to be in the Final Four, if we're being completely honest with ourselves.
I know Blake did.
Yeah. But regardless how you feel about the guy, RCR A-list competitors in the Cup Series. Oh, not in the Cup Series. I'm sorry. Definitely not the Cup Series. Yeah, this breaking news. In the Xfinity Series, though, they are 18. They are up there. They're able to compete. They're able to win a lot of races, especially the super speedways. They're just almost unbeatable. And so for Austin Hill, who's sitting here, I mean, he's liable to go out and win at Talladega. He's liable to go out and win at Talladega, and then you'd be saying, man, if he had just not messed up, he'd be in the championship 4 and looking at an opportunity where, I mean, if weird things happen in Phoenix, he could be the champion. But now, we're not going to know. And it costs his team money. I mean, just the money to not make the final 8 or the final 4 that he would have made. So you're not just talking about the championship purse, but playoff purse to continue to advance in points. So yeah, I mean that's probably my biggest takeaway. I mean, I know that there are other things I would have loved, like Austin said, if Harrison Burton could have continued racing. Who doesn't like to see that guy succeed, right? Like Harrison is such a cool guy. I think he's good for the sport. I think he's talented, and for him to do what he's done with this team, I think says a lot about his skill set as a driver, and I think he's going to continue to do well. But yeah, so those are some guys that you kind of hated to see. I feel like but again, you look at the final 8, you look who's in the round of 8, and you'd say, yeah, I mean, I'd expect every single one of these drivers to be there. And so my championship pick is hanging on, and he's still in there. Got to plug that, but with love. But I don't know. There's a part of me that says it don't matter because Illich is going to win it all by the time they get to Phoenix. But then again, he could blow it. So yeah, it's going to be a wild finish to the season. Especially, I mean, those seasons come down to a green-white checker. You just never know what'll happen. So you just want to keep putting yourself in position. So I'll be excited to see. I think I'm most excited to see how this Haas factory cars do.
Mm-hmm.
I think they put all their eggs in this series. And if you look at their Cup results, it flaunts that. They put all their eggs in the basket of the Xfinity Series, and I'm wanting to kind of see it pay off. I'm kind of, I'm a closet Haas fan this season, and just kind of wanting to see them do well. So if Mayer, or if Creed could turn the corner, what did Austin call him? Second place Sheldon,
Mm-hmm.
P2 Creed. I don't know, but anyways, if he were to turn the corner and get that win, I mean, you remember another driver who got their first win in the championship race at Phoenix, and it won him the championship, and Daniel Henry. Who knows? Maybe that'll be Creed's story, but it's going to be an interesting finish to the season.
Remember that time when you said your hot take for the season that Cole Custer was going to make it into the round of 8 in the Cup
I was
Series?
hoping you'd forget that. I was hoping. Hey, can we talk about this though? Let's talk about this instead of just. He almost made the playoffs.
Barry, yeah,
He was leading.
Val did it
on the final lap at Daytona, and so we've got a guy in our church, and he heard me give that hot take, and he would ask me every single week how I felt about it, and I was like, dude, I'm trying to forget it. I need you to forget it too. I'll shout him out. His name's Chevy, awesome guy. tried to get him on the podcast once, and then we just had too many technical difficulties. But maybe here in the future we can still get him on. He knows what he's talking about with NASCAR, that's for sure. But yeah, he kept saying, "How you feeling?" And then when Custer took the lead on that last lap, I was thinking of him and I was thinking of y'all because I was like, "Oh God!" And then it didn't work. It just didn't happen. But that would have been crazy if that had happened. He still wouldn't have made it an 8, but it would have been cool to be at least 8. But yeah, that was crazy. Yeah, no, I don't know why I thought that. I guess I thought if they would have put all their eggs in that basket, and who knows, maybe they did. That hot take crashed and burned.
I can't say much. So I think mine was Noah G was going to have a better year than Ty Gibbs and Michael McDowell, which, I mean, they've all had mediocre years overall, but Noah G's had front row in general, if it's not the truck series we're talking about, forgettable year. Like Cup series, they might as well not show up, it seems like, for majority of the year.
And Noah's a guy that I think you keep waiting on to turn that corner because we say, as far as personality goes, he could kind of be the next Tony Stewart type character. And he's the kind of guy that NASCAR needs to succeed because, in a day and age where we complain about lack of driver personalities, he's got one. He's got a big one. And he is a hilarious dude. But it's easy to forget that he's even racing in the Cup Series this year. It's just easy to forget that he's there. Kind of like Riley Hurst. It's easy to forget that they're there. But to forget that Noah Jackson is in the field is crazy just with the amount of it. I mean, look at when he was in the Xfinity Series and running well, the amount of attention he brought himself through either his personality, his ability to land a right hook, or take one to the jaw, or have one land on him, or just like his driving skill, and being in contention in big time moments. None of that has been a factor this year. I mean, what was he going to get in a fight over? 30 seconds? I mean, it's just not. Yeah, so it's been tough, and I don't think there's a NASCAR fan out there that wouldn't want to see him rattle off some wins and get competitive. But yeah, front row is been a very forgettable season.
Oh, and dude, I feel the same way about Ty Gibbs too. It's like to think about Noah G, 2021 and 2022 in Xfinity Series, made it to championship 4 in both of those years. He won 13 races from 2019 to 2022. There was one year he rattled off like 7-8 wins. And then you got Ty Gibbs, who was a champion, won several races, looked like a dominant car, and they both come to the Cup Series and they crash and burn. Like, I think Noah has more of a, I won't say excuse, but more of a, he is an equipment issue more, you could say, because he started out with Stuart Haas on the back end when they're starting to really negate and really their quality of their rides is starting to go down. And then now he's at front row, and I mean, ever since McDowell left last year, they've not had a good finish. I mean, it's been very rare that you see one in the top 10 or even 15 at times. It's been a rough year for them. So hopefully next year, maybe past this lawsuit thing, I think maybe the lawsuit impacts them more because obviously 2311's got all the funding behind them. When you look at, the 38, the 34, and the 4, it's kind of, they have money, sponsorship money and stuff, but you can't say that that's not getting impacted by the finishing positions and stuff, right? Because they're not getting the money at this point, week in to week out. And 2311 can kind of bite that bullet, but I can imagine that's got to be more horrific for them.
Yeah, it's easy to forget that that front row motorsports is in the middle of all that too, because Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan tend to take so much of that attention with that controversy and that conversation. So to sit there and remember, hey, by the way, front row is struggling with this too. It's a good thing to keep in mind and a good thing to remember, and kind of hold them to that. I don't know. You show them a little bit more grace with what they're going through, for sure. And so maybe there's some hope that if you're a Noah Gragson fan, man, he's caught up in the middle of some mess that he can't really help. And once this gets behind him, and once he becomes a priority of the team again, or gets put in a situation where they don't have to worry about lawsuits, but they can spend their money on race cars instead, then all of a sudden you might see Noah Gragson really, really take off and become the driver that you feel like he can be. And I think we all really want him to be, as NASCAR tries to, make a return to the center stage of honestly of American sports in general.
So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the Cup Series. Since we're already talking about Cup Series drivers here, we might as well move on. So I've been to, I think from 2021, I think I've been to every Roval race except for the year that AJ Allmendinger won. I wasn't there for that. So I've been there for most of the next gen car era of the Roval. And I can say, as a person that's attended those races, I will say this is probably the best Roval race that I've ever attended myself. Of course, the bar is not set super duper high because I think the Roval kind of peaked. In my mind, it peaked the first year that they did it when you had the finish with, Jimmy Johnson, Martin Truex, and Ryan Blaney getting the win where Truex and Johnson hit each other coming out of the last little bit of chicane there and the old loop-de-loop and whatnot. And then Blaney sneaks in and gets that win. But I know if you look at this and you don't watch the race because, you swear off NASCAR because you think the playoff system's stupid, think the car's stupid, you don't watch the race, but you want to make sure that your opinions are validated based upon this. So you always try to make sure you look at the clips and stuff and you look at the statistics and you see, oh, wow, SVG won another road course race. His 5th straight road course race of the year, tying Jeff Gordon's record for road course wins in a season. Yeah, this is great. This validates my opinion 100%. Well, if you actually watch the race, you can see that SVG did not dominate the race. It does look like that based upon the end of the tipper taper, whatever. It's like 16, 17 seconds he ended up winning by. But the amount of strategy that was going on in this race, the amount of people that were trying to cut the segment in half, the stage in half because they're trying to get points. They're not just doing the whole, oh, well, I'm going to win this race. I'm going to try to win this race, so I'm only going to pit once a stage, right? They're like, we have to do something different. And you have Larson bumping Bale and SVG going down the oval portion of turn 3 and 4. You had Larson really getting aggressive with SVG. And I will say, it's one thing to watch SVG on TV. It's another one to be at a race and watch him make the decisions that he does. It was just ridiculous. You could just see the gap that he would close in on those braking zones. Like, he'd be coming off the oval and he'd be so far back of Bell and Larson, and he would just close it in the braking zones. It was ridiculous. He would gain so much. On TV, I'm sure it's not really that easy to display, but I wish Blake was here because me and him, it's fine. Blake is a Larson fan. We all know this. He's self-proclaimed. He's very gung-ho with his Larson fansism, I guess. And he looked at me when he passed SVG, right? And he was like, yeah. It was like 8 laps into a run. And there was no point in the race where I'm sitting there, I'm like, SVG doesn't got it. I sat through the whole race because I knew once it got to those tire runs of like 12 to 15 laps, that's when he was going to start closing in.
Yeah.
So, yeah, very much so. That's one thing. I guess, though, I didn't get to watch it on TV, so I don't get to see everything that they monitored, but I always go back and listen to the highlights because I think it's important to see how, the TV broadcast comes across compared to the racing. And I think they did a pretty decent job highlighting everything that was going on. But Austin, you've watched majority of the race, right?
Yes, except for like the last 30 laps, I had to be at church.
That's fine. I know Kent said he was in and out and had to check in. So how was your thoughts? I know that you were a hardcore, make the Roval an oval kind of deal. And I mean, I get that, but just take that out of perspective here. Just just based upon road course, as much as you like road courses and whatnot, especially the IndyCar and what else it's got going on. What's your perspective on all this?
I thought overall it was a pretty decent Roval race, considering I'm usually a hater of the Roval. It wasn't bad. I mean, I think the thing that was impressive to me was how much strategy was involved throughout. Others mattered. We weren't sure how much they were going to matter going into the weekend. And even after kind of like practice and qualifying, you're kind of like, but there was significant fall off. I remember towards the end of the second stage with the pit cycle, towards the end, the fall off was like a 4-second like difference a lap. And so SVG, he's hauling tail trying to get back up to the lead towards the end of one of the stages. I can't remember if it was the first. I think it was the first stage. He was hauling tail to get back to the front, and they were talking on the broadcast like it's like he's gaining like 4 seconds a lap on leaders. And for road courses, that's significant. I mean, usually like 1 second's pretty good, but to gain 4 seconds a lap shows you that tire fall off from just like 20 laps. So yeah, I think overall it was a pretty good road course race. Not a big Roval guy. I'm not a big road course guy for NASCAR. So for me to say that it was decent and was one of the better Roval races that we've had in recent years, I say it's probably about as good as the year that Elliott and Harvick got into it. That was a pretty interesting race. And, you had the points drama as well. As a Logano fan, I was sweating. Watching, even at church, I was kind of checking the ticker and checking the standings, seeing the plus or minus Joey was to Chastain. Yeah, you were like asking me about Reddick. I'm like, Reddick's not even in the picture right now. This is Chastain and Logano battling it out. So, and then you had the Hamlin spinning Chastain and then Logano getting in by like 100 feet, which I know that made Kent so happy. I know he was so excited to see that.
Yeah, we can talk about it later, but I mean, woohoo, I finished 20th. I deserve an opportunity to race for a championship. I can't.
I'm sure Joey's losing so much sleep with his 3 championships in his closet. But
hey, Kent, where did William Byron finish, by the way?
I have no idea. Like what? Like right outside the top 10? Was it? Was it like 11th, 12th, something like that?
Shouldn't you know that's a William Byron finish?
Hey, look, the Dogs won and Byron advanced in the playoffs. Those are the two things I was concerned about probably the most. I looked at the standings on Sunday. I did not look at the results other than who
he finished
won.
11th.
I knew. Yeah.
That's it.
Right outside the top 10.
The second coming of Jesus Christ. That's the best he could do was the left.
We'll get hot in the playoffs and fumble it at Phoenix. This year, he has been the second poster child of mediocre. The first, of course, being Logano. But, I mean, for Byron to have run as well as he did in the regular season, he's just got to the playoffs and kind of been, I don't know. I hope that that Rudy Fugel's just kind of like, we're going to skate through with playoff points and then we're going to show him that we were hiding something all along.
He doesn't have that much of a cushion.
I just don't think he's got it.
He doesn't have that much of a cushion to skate through.
Not anymore. And especially not in this round, right? He could have in the other rounds, but I mean, even then, you would think, go out and win a race. That's your best way to not have to worry about advance. I don't know. Anyways, I guess he ran okay at New Hampshire. That was a top 5. Yeah. Otherwise,
I think honestly,
it's just been very lackluster.
This is his best chance to win this round. He does well at Vegas and he does well at Martinsville, of course. So
the intermediate tracks tend to be a strong suit for him.
But the thing is,
and then the short tracks when he has track position.
Yeah. The thing is,
he typically needs a strategy play. Go for it.
The thing is that Larson's even better at Vegas, and Chase is really good at Martinsville's. I mean, it's just that's the thing. Can he outperform?
It's going to be friendly fire.
Yeah.
Everyone. Yeah, no, he's going to have to kind of come out of nowhere because he's got two teammates that are also eyeballing Vegas and Martinsville as win opportunities. And Byron is a good driver on the super speedway tracks. Like, he's excellent there. But I mean, we're talking about can he and this season it seems like even the past few, like Atlanta and Daytona, he's like in the top 5 with 10 to go, and then it's like, where'd he finish? What did he get in red? No, he just picked the wrong lane and faded. So there's a part of me that's like, man, is that kind of is he just running out of luck? Has he just made some bad decisions or what the case, what's up with that? And then it's still so much of a crapshoot at those tracks. You got to get lucky and be good. Like, it takes both. So I mean, we'll see. He's got 3 opportunities. He could go out and win at any of these next 3 tracks. So it'll be interesting to see if he does or if he can. But I think Toyota has a stronghold on the intermediate tracks right now. I think Ford has a stronghold on some of the shorter tracks, and I think Talladega is a crapshoot. So
I mean,
that'll be interesting.
As a Logano fan, I'm going into this thinking this is our shot this week. Like,
no, I mean, and you should be.
Yeah. If Logano doesn't win this week, it's over. I mean, yeah, he could win it.
No.
I mean, he could win at Dega.
Logano could win at any of the next 3. Logano could. And I think as a Logano fan, you're almost thinking, I don't know, because Logano hadn't, if a Ford wins at Martinsville, you're probably leaning toward it being Blaney. I would think so. But if a Ford wins an intermediate, if one of them's capable of going up there and kind of battling it out with them, unless something that we've yet to see this season comes from Buescher, then I think it would have to be Logano being the one to kind of carry the torch there and go up there. And I mean, the guy knows Vegas. He knows his way around Vegas.
I mean, me and Cole were talking about this. We were texting about Logano and his. I will be the first to admit he did deserve to win the championship last year, based off of just how that season went. But don't hate the driver, hate the system that it causes that to happen, right? So,
sure, yeah.
This year, I think if it does happen, does he still deserve it? No. But I think he's had a better year this year than last year. This year, he's been running up front more consistently. Last year, it was rare. It's just seeing him running up front.
He found success earlier this season too, I feel like, than he did last year. Last year, the success that he found at first was luck, I think is fair to say. And then towards the end of the season, it turned into, okay, that's the Joey Logano that we all know is capable of just going off. And that's what we saw at the end of the year. This year, it's kind of, he's been more, when he's on, he's on. When he's not on, he's not the worst car on the track.
Mm-hmm.
He's not just out there right around 28.
Yeah. I mean,
not that he did last year, but I mean, you know what I mean, though. Like, he's still, so I mean, yeah. But I think if you're Logano, you're going into this thinking, if my team gives me a top 10 car, he's got the driver skill to turn that into a top 3 car. And the know-how and the veteran get her done attitude.
Back to the Roval. Before we even get to the playoffs, Larson made a comment after the race and said that he feels like they need to go back to a harder tire so they can compete with SVG. Just due to SVG's ability to be able to conserve tires on road course races. And that's kind of ironic coming from Larson, where he's one of the best people that can conserve tires on, oval races, short track races. I don't know. I think that's a terrible idea, in my opinion, because to pretty much make what we would deem a SVG rule at a road course race is just kind of idiotic. I mean,
I still think he would wipe the floor.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think it'd be close. But, let me ask y'all this. There was a point in the 90s, right, when NASCAR went to Ray Evernham and Rick Hendrick and Jeff Gordon. They sat them down and said, y'all are stinking up the show. Work with us. Like, just don't completely run off and burn everybody. I know y'all can, just don't. Give us something. Is there a point where NASCAR does something to try to even? I mean, as long as they continue to have as many road course races, you're going to have a guy who. Here's the thing: people were celebrating the fact that he got his first top 10 on an oval, weekend before, and I think that's great. I think that's awesome. I do think it shows that he's improving. We're talking about a guy who made the playoffs, and then got his first career top 10 on an oval. If that doesn't tell you the system's broken, then so I would have a greater time appreciating his success on road courses and celebrating his wins. I'm absolutely a hater. I would have a greater time celebrating his road course success if it didn't mean that he had this automatic bye into the next round. Now, this win means nothing for the playoff. And I can look at it and I can celebrate it and I can say, man, way to go, SVG. You just wore everyone out. And to y'all's point, y'all were talking about the race. I mean, from everything that I saw, it looked like one of the most entertaining races that I've ever seen on a road course that I already knew the outcome before I sat down to watch it. Because we all knew what was going to happen. Barring somebody wreck SVG, we knew what the outcome was going to be. And so for NASCAR to be that predictable, I thought it still put on a pretty decent race and a pretty decent show. The tire wear, I think, made that race tolerable because you had so much passing. And even with SVG, right? He's going out there, he's just spanking them. He's just taking them to the woodshed, and like they can't do anything about it. And they're like, "Please don't." And he's like, "No, I'm gonna absolutely spank you now." Like, and they're like, yeah, and they're like, no, please don't. And like, and he's like, take it like a man. And that's what he did. And it was tough. I felt like I was watching something illegal. I felt like there at least should have been a little R box in the top corner of the screen, something to warn you that you're getting ready to watch the massacre of things that, it's just going to be brutal. Like, that's not cool. Like, I didn't want to turn on the TV and put it on, NBC or USA or whatever it was on and watch a bloodbath. Like but that's what we got. And SVG just absolutely went off and he just spanked rear end and took names.
Feel like,
and I could appreciate it too, because watching him there was a whole YouTube video that NASCAR put together. It was just the passes that SVG made throughout the day. I'm glad that this race didn't mean anything for the playoffs. But at the same time, like, I did not feel compelled to be in a hurry to get to the TV because I knew how it was going to end. So if NASCAR's trying to bring in more viewers and you've got one of the best talents in the sport in Kyle Larson saying, we need something. I don't know. What do you do if you're NASCAR there?
there's two sides to the coin, right? There's the side that says, I don't feel like it's right to make a rule based off of one guy whipping everybody's tail on a road course. But on the other side of the coin, why don't the drivers just get better at racing road courses? I mean, but the thing is, though, how can you compete against a guy that has years of experience driving not Formula One, not IndyCar style cars with extreme downforce and higher horsepower, cars that are kind of similar to NASCAR? Not quite stock. They're supercars, but still, they're boxy when they're going through, road courses. He's used to that style. He's used to bumping somebody out of your way to get a position. It suits his driving style. So, can these guys get any better on road courses? Some guys could go toe-to-toe. Buescher did at Watkins Glen this year and Watkins Glen last year. Outside of that, you had Bell win COTA. That's about it. So it's tricky. I don't think there's a winning solution. I do think there needs to be an aspect of NASCAR drivers need to up their game. And I think everybody realized that when he won the first Chicago street course. Chase Elliott said, man, this dude just mopped the floor with us, beat us like it was nothing. And then he went full-time in Cup, and everyone's like, yep, here we go, road course racing. And I remember Kent saying this specifically. He said with SVG's first year running full-time, he was like, well, I think those other road courses, I think those other guys are going to get too aggressive, and they're going to show him how NASCAR drivers drive. And then he goes out there and he whips their tail about like 15, 20 seconds. So
I think his next race was the next season at Coda, and he was driving lesser quality. He was driving a colleague car, and that's exactly what happened. But now that he's back in this quality of a car, he can qualify at the front of the field for every single one of these races, and he don't have to really get too dirty winning these. Like he didn't have to get into the deep end. And so, yeah, so I was right to an extent, but then he just kind of figured it out. And
in my opinion, there's Trackhouse still in a deficit when you compare it to like a JGR or Hendrick, right? They don't have the same money. It's not on the same level. Now, the deficit's gotten smaller, obviously, but that's where the skill has overdone the deficit.
Could you imagine him
and I
in
also
Hendrick
think
equipment?
SVG,
Gosh.
God, no. But I think that SVG is able to compensate, not just with talent, but with his ability to tell them what he wants the car to do. Right? Like he can give them a little bit better input to make his car better as he goes. But he's also just that good. Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, but I just don't know if I think he's too good he's just not on the same level as these guys are. Before SVG, you had your ringers, right? You had Dinger, you had Chase, you had Martin Truex at Sonoma. You had Larson at Sonoma. You had these guys that were good at road course tracks. They're nowhere to be seen when it comes to racing on road courses. Larson was running up the front of the Roval, but everything else, he just dominates. It's not even close.
So MRN makes everything exciting, right? And I believe this was PRN this past week.
Yeah.
And they do a great job with their broadcasts. Y'all, I'm listening to the race on the radio driving home from church on Sunday, and they're saying stuff like, yeah, if Larson hits this corner just right, then he might be able to see SVG out of his front windshield. And stuff like, yeah, he's racing to stay in the rear view mirror. And when we say rear view mirror, we mean as he comes off onto the back straightaway and he exit, we got another one exiting the chicane. Even they couldn't really figure out a way to make that exciting. They were like, no, like SVG is in a different zip code. And SVG is the best road course driver that this sport has ever witnessed. And this sport was not prepared for somebody with this kind of skill set to come in and take a stronghold on these types of tracks the way that he has.
No.
It's unbelievable. It is unbelievable.
And I just catch up.
It's an interesting comment because Austin's like, get good, to these oval people. Well, SVG's clearly over the last 5 to 8 races on ovals has been getting good on the oval races. There's been a progression. It's not just, he got lucked out here to end up here. No, it's been gradual progress because supercars do not race on ovals. He's never raced on an oval ever before he came into NASCAR. Verbatim. No other series, no nothing. So it's basically like throwing, someone that, let's see here.
So taking like a Lewis Hamilton and saying, here, race Daytona.
Yeah. Yeah. Or, giving a late model like a Scott Bloomquist, rest in peace, right? Giving him, good pole position car, we'll say a Hendrick car, like a 5th Hendrick car, and saying good luck at Talladega. Like, that's the equivalent, right? We're taking one whole different skill set and putting it in another, and it's going to take time. These people grew up on ovals. He grew up on a whole different thing. So,
and majority of what they do in Australian supercars is their street courses. A lot of them are really tight. street course, you balls to the wall. That's how these are, and they're very entertaining. You can go on YouTube and you can look up some of these races. They are very, very entertaining. Long. Some of them are like 4 or 5 hours, but they're very entertaining to watch. And the cars sound amazing too. But that's the world he comes from. You're right, Cole. I mean, he started out the year not good. You know, he was averaging 28 to 30th. You know, that was his average, and then seeing him gradually progress and get better. I mean, I'm not trying to glaze him. I'm just saying, you know, it's you do see a steady progression and you see a steady improvement. He's not getting top fives, but he did get his first top 10. But the fact that this is his, in all reality, second year racing full time, first year really racing this next gen car, which already has a plethora of challenges in of itself. And the fact that he's figuring it out, I think it speaks volumes to his ability as a driver. And as you said, Kent, he knows what he needs from his team. He tells, you know, you can listen to his radio dialogue. He is one with his car and knows what his car needs in order for it to run better. I don't know. I think we're going to see a jump next year for SVG. I'm not saying we're going to get an oval win, but I say he could probably get a top 5 at some track.
And minimal improvement, especially at the rate that he's going right now with his oval success, is going to be enough to catapult him into a, like, my hot take for next season is going to be SVG in the Final Four. I mean, but think about it. If he just would have continued to have some success when he got into the playoffs and just gotten out of the first round, I mean, he would still be alive going into the round of 8, and he would have a buffer again. He's been running well at the super speedway tracks, and so gets a good finish at Talladega or possibly a win, and then does enough at the other 2 tracks just to kind of preserve some momentum. He could find himself on the bubble for a Final Four spot. Do I think that makes him a legitimate championship contender when they get to Homestead next year? No, I don't. But that is a crazy thing to be considering, is that I said he could be a Final Four contender next season, and y'all are not losing your minds over that, but I think y'all even realize that is very much a possibility.
I think this year, luck of the draw kind of hurt him. I think this is honestly like one of the toughest rounds of 16 we've had in a while. You had Darlington. I mean, Darlington's the first race every time, but you know, Darlington to kick it off. Hard track, and we've talked about this. You don't luck into a win at Darlington. Next is WWT, hard track to race. And then Bristol, where nobody knew what to expect with the tire compound and the weather. Just 3 difficult races. And the drivers even struggled. I mean, because, you know, we talked about this with our Pick'em series. Like, practice times and qualifying times were way off. Like, and so I think it was a really difficult round of 16. And it's just unfortunate that, yes, he had as many wins as he did, but it's unfortunate that he didn't have success on other tracks in order to have a bigger buffer going into. Because if he could have gotten through the round of 16, I think he stood a chance. I think he stood a chance at making a deeper run, but alas, it wasn't the case.
And with the new playoff kind of configuration that they've been rumoring, having, you know, 4 races at that final thing, imagine if, you know, the Roval was a part of that. You know, they don't change the formatting, you know, the way that it is. Because you imagine that they're probably going to be like intermediate. They want a short track in there. They want a road course in there. And they want to have, you know, I guess a super speedway in there, like a Talladega, because then you're having a champion out of the best 4 tracks there. One other thing that I'll throw out there, and this is probably just a wild take, right? But we talk about this. We grew up, this modern age of NASCAR. We're not used to seeing these tail whippings. You think that people felt the same thing about Richard Petty when he was winning races 30 laps in front of everybody else? They probably did. But what's so bad now is there's just media galore. You got social media, you got news media, you got independent writers, you got all kinds of other people just bringing a consensus like, this guy's so crazy, we need to figure out something to minimize everything in regards to him. But, I mean, we all talk about the king, Richard Petty. He's the king for a reason because he just whooped everybody. And you go to some of those older races, man, it's a tail whipping. Like, you don't even want to watch it. But also on the other side, you're like, it's dominance. And you don't see that much anymore in NASCAR. You don't see Jimmy Johnson performances anymore. It's rare.
People complain about SVG whipping the field, but you go back and watch some of these races in the 90s, there's like 3 cars in the lead lap.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, it's like, yeah, you got like 2 or 3 cars that are competing for the race, but like, I went and watched a race. I think it was like Rockingham or something like that in like 1994, and like Rusty was like mopping the field. Like, I think there was like 5 cars that were on the lead lap at one point in time, and it's like, this is the good old days. Okay, so
Yeah, the stage racing eliminated a lot of that too. You don't see. I mean, we had laps down cars before stage racing and stuff, but it seemed to minimize it a little bit because it's not instant green. You don't have the races that go green for Kyle Larson-esque moments when he leads pretty much all the laps at like Bristol in the spring, right? But I guess one thing we'll mention before we move on, I know we spent a lot of time talking about SVG, but I know it's a hot topic just between us because I know Kent's on like a whole different perspective than I am. And I know Austin's kind of in between. Blake's a little bit in between as well. And that's what makes it interesting as being fans is we can all have a different perspective and we can express that, perspective and bring rational cause and sense to the argument and not just scream into the void about it. That's ultimately the difference between fans that are proactive and, fans that are just, I don't know. It's the reason I can't get. I know that we have a Twitter account and we should probably be using that to, publicize our podcast, but I cannot stand being on that stupid platform because the amount of just negativity that you see in general's obnoxious. But we haven't really talked about the playoffs. We kind of hinted at it, but obviously the big thing is Chastain makes another big move, tries to take Denny out across the finish line, Talladega Nights-esque, right? Backwards and reverse, right? So that's pretty cool. We've already kind of alluded to, Logano's usually that guy that kind of sneaks in or whatever, but there's also some other people that didn't make it, right? Bubba Wallace obviously didn't make it. Had a heck of a year this year. I don't want people to disprove that by any means. Had a ridiculously good year. Better year than Tyler Reddick. I know that I think Bubba was under points. Reddick had more points coming in, more stage wins and whatnot. But Bubba overall, if you look at competing for wins, I mean, just last week, 2 corners away from getting his ticket punched. Tyler Reddick, I would say it's been a very struggle-filled year, and I hate it for him because now he's out of the playoffs, but also I talked about this on the podcast last week, but his son's actually has a tumor near his heart with arteries and whatnot, and they're going to have to do some kind of surgery. I told Blake, I said, I hope obviously the best, and we're praying for them because that's just horrific. But I'm also hoping that they caught it early enough where it would alleviate, issues that would occurred more later down the road, right? They caught it before it could have been more circumstantial. But hate to see him go out because he's a phenomenal talent. I love Reddick. I think he's one of those drivers that puts it all on the line. And it sometimes bites him more than it helps him. But then, remember Homestead last year in the fall. That was a phenomenal move. You could argue that Blaney probably should have just took the top lane or whatever, but just the sheer will to really just let it sit there at the fence and floor it. Incredible. You also, of course, got Chastain, and if you guys didn't get to watch the race, if you swear off the race for whatever reason because you think whatever, your opinion, your playoff, whatever, football's on, Go back and listen to Chastain's post-race interview after he got eliminated. I told Blake it's like the longest post-race interview I've ever heard. It was like 3 to 4 minutes long on just being there, and you could just tell he's gutted the whole entire time. And I'm like, that doesn't tell you how much these drivers actually care that they get into this. I don't think nothing does. And then Cindric got eliminated. I hate it for him because I think he's probably got one of the best personalities in the garage. When you're coming out to, your walkout song at Bristol's I'm a Goofy Goober from SpongeBob, like the rock song, that just kind of displays his personality a little bit. He's cool. I've met him a couple times, just a cool guy. He was already kind of behind the 8 ball, and then Hocevar just absolutely plowed into him. The dude wheel hopped, I think, 90% of the race. He smoked through. Me and Blake were sitting in turn 4, coming into that last little bit of a loop before you get to the checker finish line. He smoked the tires a lot. Bell was doing it a little bit, but like he was just locking them up almost every 5 to 10 laps. You can tell that Hocevar's road course racing is probably a circle for improvement for next year. That's for darn sure.
And Darlington.
But yeah, that too. I hate that they all 4 of those get eliminated, but you can only have 8 come on, right? That's the last 8, and you got 2 really good Hendrick drivers that are catching their stride at the right time. You got Larson and you got Elliott. You got a really consistent driver throughout the year with Byron. I know the wins don't line up for him, but he's been consistent. So having 3 of the 4 Hendrick cars, I mean, you would say it's expected, but the way that Toyota's performed this year, that's an impressive feat, in my opinion. You got 3 JGR cars in there. The 3 people that you would expect from JGR. Hamlin's in there, Briscoe's in there, and Bell's in there. So between those 2, that's 6. And then you got Logano and Blaney for Penske. The 3 teams that you expect to be really good in the playoffs, they all got in. That was basically possible. They're all missing 1 driver out of there. Bowman for Hendrick. You got Ty Gibbs for JGR, and then you got Cindric for Penske.
Man, poor Blake, man, just didn't have his playoff winning driver advance. It's just so sad.
Yeah, he's gonna have to knock it out the next 4 weeks. Be consistently good in the Pick'em series, which is gonna be tough. Go ahead and prepare you for Las Vegas, the next race that we are running. Trucks will be racing at Talladega the next week. They will be off this week. 07 of Nick Lentz, 11 of Daniel Hemrick, 17 of Corey Day, Eric Almirola in the 19, Trevor Bain in the 24, Austin Green in the 32. Phenomenal performance at the Roval. Finished P2 at the Roval for Austin Green. Mason Maggio, Mason Massey, Joey Gase in the 53, number 70 of Thomas Unazita, and the number 91 of Josh Williams. And then for Cup, we have Catherine Legg making her return. I know Kent's looking forward to that. And JJ Yeley will be making a return as well in the 44. So, Kent, buddy, I know you're all his story.
Las Vegas went through a few different. They were racing in Las Vegas back in the 70s, and its original name was the Las Vegas Motor Speedrome. Thought that was interesting. I did not know that. Weird, right? Like, it's just, yeah. Anyways, came to be in the state that it is now, that we know it to be Las Vegas Motor Speedway. About 1996 with the Cup Series racing there in 1998 for the first time. When I think about the early 90s or late 90s, early 2000s, I think about guys like Jeff Gordon and Mark Martin having some success there. And, it's a good, it puts on a good show for these intermediate. I mean, it was a part of the movement in the 90s to get towards some bigger, badder, faster tracks, right? And so it accomplished that and puts on a pretty decent show. And so we'll see what it lends itself to this weekend.
Okay, it's a 1.5-mile quad oval. So
is it concrete or asphalt?
Asphalt. So the stage breaks will be laps to stage 1, 85 laps to stage 2, and then you have the run to the final stage to finish up the 267 laps. first race of the round of 8 in the Cup playoffs. Currently, the drivers that are above the cut line for the Cup Series are Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, Kyle Larson, and Willie B. Below the cut line going into this round is Christopher Bell, Chase Elliott, Chase Briscoe, and defending fall Las Vegas winner from last year, Joey Logano. So it's going to be interesting to see. Toyota has been strong on the mile and a halves, and this is also a good place for Joey. Larson and Byron are also good here. I hear Larson's especially good here when Bubba doesn't put him in the wall. So this being the first of 3 races in the round of 8. Want to get off to a good start. Las Vegas can be abrasive, so it's going to be important. The guys that are good at managing their grip over long runs will be key. Cautions can happen at any time, wrong time. Might see some bold pit calls that could shake up the order. That's how Joey won the race last year, off of a bold pit call. And then you have the Xfinity race as well. The round of 8 drivers are Connor Zilich, Justin Allgaier, Brandon Jones, Sam Mayer, Jesse Love, Sammy Smith, Carson Quapple, and Sheldon Creed. Justin Allgaier has a history at Vegas. He won the spring race there, leading 102 laps. So that's kind of what we're looking at going into Las Vegas this weekend. You have several drivers, at least on the Cup side, that are really good at Vegas, that are going to be contenders for this. And definitely, if you're a guy like Joey, if you're a guy like Briscoe, you want to get off to a good start in the round of 8. And as we all know, when Joey Logano wins Vegas in the playoffs, he has really good odds to win the championship as well. You know that team doesn't give a flying crap about Dega. They don't give a flying crap about Martinsville. All of their attention, all their focus goes into Phoenix. So we'll see what happens, but should be an interesting race. The playoff race in Vegas usually does not disappoint. Usually it's a really entertaining race and has had high drama in the past. We'll be looking forward to seeing both Xfinity and Cup run.
I have the tire information. I was able to glean this. If you guys remember the tire combination that was at Kansas, that is the exact same race tire that they're going to be running for Las Vegas. They say, of course, Las Vegas is really not known for a lot of tire wear. It's not a tire wear track, but hopefully with this Kansas tire, they're hoping to at least introduce a little bit more. That this Kansas tire showed at least a little bit of progression on a mile and a half, so it's definitely going to be one to watch out for. And the one for Xfinity Series is similar to what they usually run on the mile and a half, so nothing too incredibly crazy there. One additional thing, if you are a WWE fan, you might have been seeing the activation that they've been able to do at certain racetracks. WWE superstar Damian Priest will be the honorary pace car driver for the South Point 400. Yeah,
We're not doing
it's a
hot
mess.
takes.
I mean, we can if you want to. I just seen how quick we are. I mean, there's only 3 of us, right? I mean, it's not that. Come up with one, Kent, since you're looking so deeply into the camera right now.
It's looking right into my eyes. Makes me uncomfortable.
Larson finishes outside the top 10.
Ooh.
Finds himself on the bubble after this race for points.
That's a good hot take. I say that Noah G gets a top 10. I know that we talked about his
Home
struggles.
track.
This is home track, and he was phenomenal here in the Xfinity Series. It's definitely one that he always had circle in the Xfinity Series, so I think he gets a top 10 this week. Go ahead, buddy. You're the only one left.
Just to make Blake mad, Reddit gets a win this week.
Wouldn't that be just the timing?
Yeah, I know. That'd be crazy.
Oh, all right. That's good. Blake's hot take is that Catherine Legg's going to finish 5th. Precisely 5th. Not 4th. Not 1 through 4, but 6 through whatever. I just put that for him. He did not say that. He's not here, so he can't defend himself.
Even better. All right, let's get to the Pick'em series presented to you by Glowing Glove. So to recap the trucks, we're not picking trucks this week. Kent came in last.
Car complication. Yeah, he's DNF.
So anyway, I came in 3rd with Connor Zilich. Blake came in 2nd with Gio Ruggiero. And then Cole got the win with Heim, getting his 10th. Cole, you've picked Heim for the last time this season. When I go through at the end of the year, I'm curious how many times we picked Heim throughout the year. Xfinity, I came in last with Austin Hill, unfortunately. For once, when I needed him to do something, he didn't. Blake came in third with Sam Mayer. Kent came in second with Sheldon Creed. And then Cole got the dub with Connor Zilich. And then with Austin Hill's finish, Blake also not only has Reddick eliminated from his championship predictions, but he also has Austin Hill eliminated as well. Looking at Vegas this weekend, I mean, I can't pick Allgaier, Jones, or Hill, so give me Zilich. I'll take the hot hand. See, Blake is up next. Blake cannot pick Zilich, Allgaier, or Mayer. Who did he pick, Cole?
Eric Almirola is who he has written down.
Okay, Almirola. Kent, you cannot pick Almirola, Love, or Creed.
And y'all pick.
I picked Zilich. Blake picked Almirola.
Man, I think I'm gonna go. Man, I want to save. I want to save Zilich.
You can't pick Zilich, right? Because
But you said I can't pick Zilich. Never mind. So there you go. Well, that makes it easy. Like I said, I was trying to save. I wasn't gonna pick him. Cole, golly.
well, Austin also picked Zilich too. So it's like,
you know what? I won't change it up a little bit. This will probably go nowhere. This will probably be a DNF, but just to have a little bit of fun. What's the point situation right now for Xfinity? Where am I at?
You're leading.
you are on top at 69.
What kind of a gap do I have?
So
Probably
1
very
point.
slim.
1 point over me.
Okay.
So have all the fun you want to.
Yeah. And all right, give me Sheldon Creed.
Coleman, you can't pick Quapple, Creed, or Zilich. Who you got?
Give me Allgaier.
Yeah, that's a layup at there at number 4. All right. Kent is leading with 69 points. Cole is second with 68. Blake is third with 67. And then I am last with 65. As I mentioned, Blake does not have his championship prediction still alive, which means he is not eligible for the extra 10 points. On to Cup. Cole swept the weekend. I didn't even realize, Cole, you swept the weekend with SVG taking the Roval. Kent came in second with Larson, who had a good car, but just not good enough. Blake came in third with Reddick, and then I came in last with Silver Spoon. So not bitter. But looking at the playoff situation, championship predictions, Kent has predicted Kyle Larson to win the championship. Cole picked Ryan Blaney. I picked Christopher Bell. Ours are still alive, but with last week, Blake lost Tyler Reddick, which means he is not eligible for the extra 10 points at the end of the year if the correct driver wins. So, looking at this weekend, I will pick first with Las Vegas. I cannot pick Blaney. I can't pick Jones, and I can't pick Gibbs. I feel like I have one of the best setups for this weekend. And honestly, I'm looking at Byron. I might change my mind and go Briscoe once I see qualifying and practice, but just overall, Byron's really good at this track. He has one of the highest average finishes here. Just in general, he's really good at 1.5 miles, and plus, I feel like he's due for a good finish and potentially a win to get him into the round of 4. As much as I pick on Kent and talk crap, I would like to see William Byron being in contention for a championship, and definitely think he's a talented individual who will one day get it. But I think when it comes to this weekend, I'm looking at William Byron. So next up, Blake. Who does Blake considering, Cole, for this weekend?
I mean, do I even have to say it?
Larson.
No. But your guy, he's going Logano.
Oh, he's going Logano. Okay. I mean, we'll see. I don't know. I'm just not very optimistic. We'll see. Next up is Kent. Kent, you man, I'm sorry. You can't pick Logano. You can't pick Hamlin. You can't pick Larson. And if I pick Byron, you can't pick Byron. So who are you considering for this weekend?
So this is one of those I feel like it forces me to get out of my comfort zone with my pick, but also helps me make what could end up being a solid pick. And the guy in this car with the highest average finish at this track, with an average finish of 5.4, is Ross Chastain. And so I'm probably going to get out of my comfort zone. I've got some other guys that I could pick, feel like Ross Chastain has as good a chance as any of being a guy who finishes in the top 5, and then it's just a matter of, let's see where that puts me amongst the rest of y'all's picks. So, he could finish 4th and y'all's come in first, second, and third. Doesn't matter. But still, I like the chances of having a decent finish with Chastain.
I mean, also, it saves you a pick at another track, too. I mean, Dega is a crapshoot.
Yeah.
But Martinsville, it saves you a guy you would normally pick at Martinsville. So let's see. And then Cole, you cannot pick Barry, Larson, or SVG. I know you're just gutted you couldn't pick SVG for this race, but who are you considering for the Las Vegas race?
Given it's kind of a similar tire compound, I'm probably looking maybe Bubba Wallace this weekend.
Another non-playoff driver.
Yeah, well, he's not historically the greatest at this racetrack either, but it just seems, Toyota in general has got, with these intermediate tracks with the tire compound that they've been running, it just seems like they got the blueprint set out for everything. So it's hard not to pick a Toyota driver. And it's tough to really eliminate, like a Hamlin from Martinsville and stuff like that. So you kind of have to be kind of prestigious with your choices there.
Yeah, so that is our picks. Just to review the standings, I'm in the lead with 92 points. Cole and Blake are tied for second and third with 87. Kent is last with 86. So things are closing together, but what definitely hurts Blake is he does not have the potential for 10 points at the end of the season. He has to win. He has to win out and then hope the drivers that we picked to win the championship don't win. And I think it's just kind of cool that 3 of the guys we picked stand a really good chance of making it to the next round. So we'll see how things shape up. But that will be us for Vegas. And then we will pick all 3 next weekend for Dega, baby.
Alrighty. Well, thank you so much, Austin, for returning. It was great to have you again. Maybe we'll have you on as a guest again next week. We'll never know. Shout out to Glowing Glove for the sponsoring the Pick'em series as always. And of course, Wilkerson's Catering always sponsoring the podcast. And we appreciate everything that you guys do for us. And we appreciate everybody listening. Make sure to check out the socials this week. Might have a few little podcast edits coming together. We'll see what happens. And yeah, just take care. Stay off Twitter and have a wonderful, wonderful race weekend. See ya.
See ya.